Today's podcast is sponsored by Fire Facilities Incorporated, expert engineers, designers, and manufacturers of steel training towers, burn rooms, and mobile units that are all made in the USA. Tai Rondeau brings over 16 years of knowledge and experience ranging from his time as a volunteer firefighter to 2 career departments. Tai currently serves as a firefighter paramedic for the city of Milwaukee at Engine 34 and Med 13. He also teaches for Take the Door training. He's affiliated with Brew City Fools, and he has taught and assisted with several fire conferences and fire schools across the nation. Lastly, he is associated with Leatherhead Tools in helping with tool research and development. He shares a great passion for the fire service and still loves learning and is bettering his skill set every single day. Now, personally, I have seen Tai in action. I can attest to his passion and love of training. As always, if you like my podcast and YouTube channel, please help me by hitting subscribe and the like button. It really helps to grow the podcast and helps me get great guests. And with that, Tai Rondeau. Welcome back to 3 Point Firefighter. So today my guest is Tai Rondeau. So Tai, how you doing, brother?
Good. How you doing, sir?
I am doing great. Now, before I met you, the coolest firefighter name was Red Adair, but you have easily surpassed it with by far the coolest firefighter name. I'm sorry, but Tai Rondeau, that's badass.
That kind of flows. Some guys will go taekwondo, it's all.
Sure. Sure. So I can only assume you changed your name to fit the fire service. Is that right?
That is 100% wrong.
Well, I've done a little digging, and I think your name actually used to be Larry Schwartz. Is that it? No. Okay, so it is Tai Rondeau.
That is me, man.
Okay, I'll get on my my department that does all the digging for me for stuff like that. So yeah, welcome on here. I first got introduced to you basically through Facebook. We have a lot of mutual friends on Facebook, but we actually have some mutual friends in real life too. So I was kind of, your name kept popping up and I was kind of impressed with what I was seeing. So then a few months ago, I went up to Indianapolis for nozzle forward. That was my first Aaron Fields nozzle forward class. So I had no expectations other than a good class, but I had no idea how physically challenging it was. And for those that haven't been, I highly encourage it. But the first day, I think we're there for 12 hours. And then the second day we were there for 10 hours and it's nonstop, go, go, go. So I was getting kind of worn out. People around me are getting worn out. And I saw you earlier and I was like, man, I'm going to go introduce myself to this guy later on. So I waited till lunch. I figured at some point I was going to, say, hey man, I'm, kind of a fan of yours, blah, blah, blah. So I'm walking around and I hear this noise during lunch. Everybody else is going to eat. Everybody's relaxing. I go to the back of this building as I turn the corner, I see a 2.5 just kind of move it by itself. I'm like, I wonder what that is. I come around there, it's you and your buddy moving a 2.5, charged 2.5 up and down stairs repeatedly on lunch break. It looked like with the greatest of ease too. So tell me a little bit about that.
Well, so actually it was October of last year is when that class was, and I've taken nozzle forward a few times, and I think it's one of the best physically challenging engine classes that, as far as like building a skill set and really getting comfortable handling bigger lines like you saw kind of by yourselves. And I was just helping out at FD Chan at Jim McCormick's place like the 5 days beforehand. And the guy that was with me, his name's Parker. He came out of the same recruit class that I came out for the city of Milwaukee. And something I kind of learned from people that have mentored me before is, invest in the people around you. And there's a retired major that was in charge of training from the city of Lexington, Kentucky, Major Madden. And I heard a story when I was walking around the grounds at FD Chan that when he was a boss, when he was a lieutenant back in the day, he would invest his money into his crew and pay for a class and better them off. So spring forward, I told Parker, who was my classmate, I said, hey, I will cover the cost of the hotel room. You pay for the class, which we have education reimbursement, which is awesome. So there's really no reason why he couldn't come down. And I said, I know this guy will move hose with me and he loves to train and get in there in that mindset. And we both kind of are the type where, in the words of Mikey Torres, you can rest when you're dead. I'm sure you've heard that before. And that's it. We had to be somewhere. We had to cut the class short day 2. And I wanted him to get the most out of it. And I wanted to get my butt kicked again too. And I said, hey, lunch break, man, we can eat on the way home. let's work through lunch. It'll give us time to have some intimacy with the hose lines and all that stuff. And he said, yeah. And we just started flowing. I asked Aaron if he's cool with it. They're like, yeah, for sure. I asked one of the other cadre members, and they're like, give me a game plan. Give me an outline of what you want us to accomplish here. He's like, move this line this way to that way. And he's like, now try this. And we did it. And probably did it, I don't know, 6 times during lunch or whatever. And we were gassed, but I wanted also to show him, hey, the way that Aaron and his cadre shows how to move a 2.5, just with 2 people, you can do it with ease with some technique.
Exactly.
And it's again, I really like and enjoy his class. Like you said, I think it's one of the best classes out there as far as building that skill set, that foundation, the fundamentals. Does some of the stuff work that he shows work for every aspect that we have? And I found that some of it does, some of it doesn't. You get a house that's a hoarder house. I'm not going to be clamp sliding through that thing. We're going to throw some doors on top of it, and we're going to try to move the hose the best that we can. But it's tools for the toolbox, right? And that's what I've always learned from a lot of other people that have mentored me. It's just add everything you can to your mindset, and when that time comes, open up that toolbox and grab what's going to work. And maybe it doesn't work the first time, so you go to the next tool, or the next fire, or whatever it might work. So, yeah, that's what happened. We just kind of cut nuts at lunchtime, and we're like, we're going to get wet. Let's have some fun. Let's grunt it out. And let's put in the work here that's asked of us by Aaron and his crew.
That was pretty impressive. And I told you in an email, I said, it really inspired me. I kind of felt bad though. Here's where what I did wrong. I don't know if you remember this, but do you remember me coming around and seeing you at lunch? You may not.
Yes, I do.
Well, so I was gassed just from before. So I come up to you and I kind of looking at it, and you go, hey man, you want to get in on this? And I'm like, no, I'm good. And I went back and I sat down, and I was like, well, one, I was inspired the whole way back to where the bathrooms were. And I sat down for a little bit. I was like, man, that son of a bitch, he's kicking ass. I'm inspired. And then I go and sit down, and I'm thinking, why did you jump in on that? I mean, you had an opportunity to better yourself, and I didn't take that opportunity. So that, shame on me for that. But it really stuck with me. There's a lot of things that firefighters I've met along the way that have said or done something that just gets stuck right in my brain. And that was one of them. I was really impressed with that. I thought that was just a great mentality for the job. And I really think that was a nice little view of the kind of firefighter you are. Just that short little window I saw, I was like, okay, that's the real deal firefighter.
Thank you. It's humbling.
Yeah. I'd say you probably don't sit in a recliner too often.
No, I kind of have a thing about cleaning tools. I actually have my own tool cleaning kit. I just learned a new technique the other day. It's kind of upped my game, but I spend a lot of time on making sure the tools look good, presentable. Our company pride is there. I'm very fortunate to work at the firehouse that I'm at, and now I'm in a position where I just got off probation. Again, I kind of hit the reset button and by jumping ship in my previous career department, going to the city of Milwaukee, and now it kind of got assigned a new recruit as well. So I'm making sure I give that person my all, and I don't want to set a bad example for that person by just I get my year on now, I can relax. Like I think it's more important right after your probationary year kind of speaks who you are as a firefighter, right? Like you can throttle back and you can take naps and sit in a recliner, or you can still be full throttle and work through lunch and train every day and clean tools and make sure everything's right tight out of sight, right? Because in my opinion, the citizens that we're serving in our area expect that. So I got 24, 48 hours to make sure I'm that guy. And hopefully it's contagious and others catch it. But again, it's stuff that other people, I'm still a younger individual. It's others that mentored me into that mindset. Right. You surround yourself around those people. And so, yeah, man, I don't, recliner pilot is not for me yet, man. I'm not taking off in that thing for hours on it.
Well, I've always said, if you're going to sit in those chairs or sit in that couch or whatever, at least earn it, do something that day to earn that time in that couch. Yeah. So I told you earlier that, we have a couple friends in common, and you actually just mentioned another one. And I didn't realize you mentioned Chief Madden. So you also know Ryan Hoxton.
Yeah.
So both of those guys are from Lexington. Well, I came on in Lexington with Ryan and Joe.
Man,
I was there for 8 years, and then I came up here to Indiana.
Those are some rock solid guys.
Oh, dude, 100%. I was actually stationed with Joe at Station 1. There was 4 of us, Greg Bear, him, and Elizabeth Conyers. So we did our sub year together, our first year together.
Oh
And
man,
yeah.
pumpkin heads.
Oh yeah. Oh, we were pumpkin heads for sure. Those ugly orange helmets.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we actually yeah. Here's one thing with Chief Madden at the time, or Major Madden. Um, he brought Mikey, myself, Ron Smith came down there. A bunch of us came, and he hired us to work with his recruit class in the academy. And I had to like do a double take, and I said, "Excuse me, sir." I said, "You want us to come work with your brand new recruits? Like, how often does that really happen? That like people from the outside get to work with your academy class? Like, that's a pretty intimate thing. You're learning the ins and outs." And he found value in some of the stuff that we were kind of bringing to the table, or just showing. Right? It's like we didn't invent this. We're not reinventing the wheel by any means. We're just spreading what we've learned from our experiences and this and that and skill sets. And we were down there for 4 days beating on these guys, and in the end, it kind of made some friendships out of that too with those recruits. I still talk to some of those the pumpkin heads at the time, and I still keep in contact with a few. But I was just impressed that this guy who's running this entire beautiful fire ground is all extending the olive branch to who am I? Who are these other guys that I get a chance to come down there? And it's just humbled and tickled, and it's cool. It was cool to see a big academy class go through how they marched in order, all the songs they sang as they went from that utility building to the training grounds. And then you see that like the training grounds are built by the Lexington firemen.
Mhm.
There's a lot of pride in that place. So I was very, very humbled to add that feather to the cap to say I had the opportunity to come down here and be a part of this. It was pretty cool.
Oh, I
And
tell you what,
I got it tested, but it tested for Lexington in a heartbeat.
Lexington Fire Department is an outstanding fire department. They do have a lot of pride. They got great firefighters. I miss being there. I really did. I did my 8 years, and I was able to get custody of my kids up here, and so I wasn't able to stay down there. But luckily, I got to stay in the fire service. That's the important thing.
Yeah.
I guess my kids were kind of important-ish. Well, they were important until they became teenagers, and then it was like, oh God.
Hey man, someone's got to wipe your ass when you get older, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I've already picked out which of my kids is going to take care of me. So I'm a little extra nicer to my oldest daughter, because I figure, I'm like 3 years from being bedridden, so she's going to have to take care of me. She also thinks that I have a bunch of money in the bank, which I don't, which I should probably address that at some point. But anyway, that's not important.
Never met a rich fireman yet.
I know. No. I've seen some close ones, but you know what? Actually, there was a guy in Lexington that was a millionaire. He sold a piece of land. Him and his father sold a piece of land because they were building a Toyota plant down there, and they paid him an ungodly sum just for a little bit of land. So that was pretty nice. That ain't me though. That ain't me at all. So let me ask you this. So you work for Milwaukee. Tell me a little bit how you got in the fire service and your journey to where you are today.
Oh gosh. Well, I started my career right out of high school in 2005. And at the time, I was actually, my family had horses, right? And I was riding horses at this barn. So most people wouldn't know that I did that in the past, but there was a gentleman and his wife that belonged to the barn as well, and he's on City Milwaukee Fire Department. And I didn't know anything about it at the time, but there's a cadet program where right out of high school, you get to go to the City of Milwaukee, and you basically have like a 2-year internship or whatever. Put you through Fire 1, Fire 2, and all that stuff, and you're paid for it, and it's pretty cool, right? You get to start your career right out of high school. You get to retire at an early age. Well, I missed that boat. I didn't know anything about it, so I missed the application process. And so this gentleman tried to help me out at the time, and it just didn't pan out. So I was going to go to be a chef, actually, and because I like to cook and the whole culinary arts. And then he's like, well, why don't you join the fire service and just go the hard way, the tech school route, and wait your time. And you get to do both, cook and then put out fires and run some cool calls and have that culture. I was like, hell yeah. All right. So I did that. So I went to tech school. I got on a accommodation department at the time. It's the city of Pewaukee. It's just outside of Milwaukee, by probably about 11, 12 miles or so in a different county. And from there, that's kind of where I got my feet wet. Spent 5 years there, just part-time helping out. And then I got full-time in a suburb of Milwaukee called the city of Greenfield. And then from 2010 to 2020, I was there. 2-station department, smaller, like 50 some guys. It was good. I learned a lot of EMS calls, different type of building construction, different clientele. The nickname was like the land of the newlywed or nearly dead. It had this state's largest nursing home at the time. When I got hired there, was a 250,000 square foot like rehab nursing home facility, just a building of death. Right? That's basically what it was, right? But then, so, and this is kind of where the teaching started, or like the passion started. In 2011, I saw that the Brotherhood instructors were putting on a class down over the border in Illinois. It was like Troy Protection District, Fire Protection District, I believe. It's a basic and advanced class. It's like, I'm going to sign up for this. This sounds pretty cool. And truthfully, I didn't know anything about forced entry. We didn't have a lot of it. We didn't have a door prop at that department at the time. Like, who doesn't want to beat a bunch of tools and beat a bunch of shit up with tools? Like, yeah, I'm in. I'll pay the money for it. So I went down there, and then the 2 days I fell in love with it. You know, I'm meeting guys from FDNY. I'm meeting a guy from Elkhart, Indiana. I'm meeting guys from Kankakee, Illinois. You know, all over the place, right? And people that have affected my life and have motivated me and have driven me to be better and keeps the fire going inside me. And then lo and behold, as I'm talking to these guys throughout the time, and very social, I'd like to network and just talk to anyone, right? So I'm at the bar, and they remember me as like the cherry bomb Jägermeister bomb guy, because I was buying drinks and just shooting the shit and hanging out. And I was just starstruck, right? And lo and behold, they had a class about a year later, right over the border again, and they asked if I'd come and help out. And I say, man, I'm really gonna go on an ass bleeds. I don't know about forced entry. I'm like, DMS, man. Next thing you know, it was almost like an on-the-job offering. They kind of asked if I wanted to join the Brotherhood instructors in the Midwest division, and I said, hell yeah, absolutely. I knew nothing what was going on, or this is just cool. I'm like around guys that are into the job, and from there it kind of grew.
Now, how long had you been in the fire service when you got offered that gig?
A year.
A year.
Just a year. I mean, well, I would say a year full time. So at 2010, I got hired. 2011 is when that was offered to me, I believe. So I mean, essentially starting in 2005. But the first couple of years, I still didn't, I didn't know everything. You don't spend that much time in the firehouse at some of these volley departments, so I didn't really know. And then it just grew. My passion for the fire service grew from there, because I just loved the forced entry, loved hearing people's stories. I love that mindset they put you in, to keep training for what's going to kill you. And then it just grew. And then there, gentleman that you also may probably know, Captain Arthur Ashley, right, from Lexington. Mm-hmm. He reached out to me and asked about help out one time, and that's where I kind of met Mikey Torres. They brought us, yeah, it's good, very close friend of mine. But he brought us all together at the Kentucky State Fire School one year. And we're down. He asked if we could all come down and teach and all that stuff. We're like, yeah, sure. I mean, this is a bunch of guys getting together, shooting the shit, having fun, and it was amazing. And that kind of opened up more doors there. And he showed me a lot of things that I'll never forget. That's just again another guy that opened the door. So then I kind of fell into the trucky talk thing as well, and moving around with those guys and helping out here and there. At that time, I don't know if you've heard of O'Byrne Fire Training or whatnot, but that used to be the Midwest division for Brotherhood instructors. Mm-hmm. Chad Daly and all the guys from Kansas City and them, they used to run that, and that's the crew that I ran with. And then the Brotherhood kind of dissolved over there, and then they bought it out and became O'Byrne. I taught with them for a little bit, and that's where I kind of learned the man and machine stuff, as well as some of the RIT things in the other classes that they taught, right? And I rolled around with those guys for a bit, and then kind of created our own company here with Mikey and Ron Smith and some of those other guys, and I asked them to be along. Said we're all going around together as it is, kind of just working for basically nothing. Some of these places actually needed an EIN to pay us like whatever little wage that we asked for to basically cover our beer cost, right? And that's all we really want to go out for. We're not doing this to get rich. We're just trying to spread the poison, right?
Right.
And from there on, Augie Matt and Andrew Broussard reached out to us and said, hey, how would you guys like to join forces? And that's how I came to be a part of Take the Door training. I'm still newer on the roster there and helping out. But it's been really cool. So it's really opened up a lot of doors, just being around people that I've been surrounded. I'm still starstruck every day. I still am fortunate to be able to go to FDTN twice a year to help out with live fire camp and stuff like that.
That's a big one there. That's such that's probably the best live fire training you're going to get in the United States. And I know that McCormick is kind of real picky on who he has come up there. So, that says a lot.
Hands down, that is, when they say it is the Disneyland for firefighters, that is 100% the Disneyland for firefighters. I get butterflies in my head every time I'm driving down there because I know how excited I'm going to get. I get to hang out with some of the biggest names in the fire service that are the most humble people. That I watch how they teach and talk to students, and that's the way I try to emulate them. And just to sit back and listen to them, it's just it's a phenomenal place. And the fire behavior that Jim and his his main cadres create is some of the best that I've seen. And they just kind of let it go and be natural. If you open up the wrong opening, or you don't open up that line, like, you're going to feel the pain of the heat coming, and it's going to teach you real life situations, and it's awesome. So it's humbling for me to be in there because I get to listen to the crews going in. At the same time, I get to just be as an instructor, he wants you silent, and you just get to stay in there and you listen, and you learn so much just from sitting on the sideline sometimes. So it keeps me, I've learned stuff every time I go down there, and I just love going down there. But I encourage anyone to at least make a trip down there for live fire camp, or any of them really that are out there. They're challenging. They're really challenging. And there's a lot of love that he puts in that place, and you'll be able to see it when you go down there.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I always tell the story when I was going up to Indy. I live like an hour and a half south from there. So I was going up to Indy for something, and it looked like a plane crash way off in the distance. It's just a big, thick black column of smoke. And I was like, holy shit. Then I realized, oh, I'm near FDTN. That's what that is. So let me ask you this. What do you teach down there? Anything they need you to, or do you have a specific thing that you try to do?
I really don't do a whole lot of teaching there per se. Like, lately I've been helping out at the Hoarder Station with Tim Collette. He's the lead. That's him and Chief Rhodes from Orlando. That's their station, right? And then I started off as a stoker down there, kind of helping out. And then I kind of assist in when Tim or the other leads need a break. I just kind of jump in there and help make sure everything's going smoothly, no one's getting hurt. And then just making sure that helping out the stokers then. So definitely not I wouldn't call myself an instructor down there, but just able to help out and do a lot of grunt work and get dirty.
I would say that sounds like nothing but fun. I love fire training. Love it. Live fire training.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about Brew City Fools. You're affiliated with that.
Yeah. So truthfully, I haven't done a whole lot with them just because of, oh my gosh, there's been obviously with everyone across, COVID's really put a crushing on a lot of these organizations and people getting together. And then obviously me going through the academy for Milwaukee and then learning the ropes and starting over. I got to take a break from some of that stuff. But I think I look back and I think I've been with the Fools ever since I started Greenfield right around 2010, 2011, right around there. And same thing, it's just I got starstruck. You got a bunch of awesome firefighters from locally around the area that were putting on classes that I was learning lots from, and I was able to join them. And these guys you're doing great right now as it is. They're rock solid. I think they're hosting this year. We're hosting the international conference. So there's a lot of hard charges that still are just all about teaching the basics and helping out little departments that can't afford training, that don't know any better. That it's all free classes.
That's great.
So, yeah.
That's one of my New Year's resolutions, is to be more involved with my Fools chapter. But the irony is they're having a meeting right now, but I'm doing the podcast. So sorry, fellas. I'm sure you understand.
Sorry, guys.
I'm still talking fire shit, so that's cool.
Yeah.
What kind of?
You're in New Albany, right?
Yes, sir.
That's not that far from, is it Jeffersonville?
Oh yeah, we're right next to.
Yeah, I think that's where I met some of your Fools guys there. We did a tower ladder ops class there.
Yes, I was there.
Yeah. So
I wasn't in the class. My guys were in it. So as a training guy, I was going back and forth and just checking on everybody. But yeah, they love that class.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great class. And then of course, Mikey and Truckee Talk came up to our fire department several years ago, and I had Torres on the podcast, and I told him, I said, things that you say and do, or said and did when you were here, people still do to this day in my fire department. You'll hear them say, all right, baby birds, I'll feed you. And then, how he ties the knot on the ladder.
Halyard, yeah. What's the PG version or the
R-rated version?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, the R-rated version. So, I'll have guys, we'll be doing a ladder class, and somebody that took that class will be showing somebody else. And he goes, as soon as I hear, hey, I'll show you how to do this Clovitch. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be good. So,
is there an HR department here? No, good, great, perfect.
Okay. Do the Torres way. Okay, all right, stick it. Yeah.
Yeah, babe, come on, babe, let's go.
He's awesome. Super.
Yeah.
I mean, he's one of those firefighters that every firefighter really, really likes and looks up to. He's so humble.
Yeah, that's another guy who's pushing me, another mentor. I've learned so much stuff from him on the truck side, right? So like, um, right now I'm assigned to an engine company, and I love it. In the previous departments, we were small staffed, and you become like a jack of all trades, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't have, like, right now, we're fortunate to have tons of staffing for a structural fire. And beforehand, we didn't have it right out of the gates. We eventually get it on scene, but it's not as fast as like what we're getting now, where I'm at now. And that's a guy like Mike showed me, and same thing with Arthur and some of these other people that I've surrounded myself with. And it's like in Ron Smith too, he's short staffed, and Gary, um, how to do like engine truck stuff. Doesn't matter what you're coming on, what apparatus. I mean, you could come in a pickup truck and you still have to do that skill set and get the job done. And that was the kind of thing I took from Mike. Mike talked about in his podcast. I listened to it. He didn't sprout up out of the city of Chicago. He worked in the suburbs, and the same thing for him. And you got to get the job done with little. And that's where we kind of, like, when we're teaching our classes, we don't teach to massive staffing levels. We try to teach you how to get the job done with as little as possible, and the
Right.
tips and trades that we've experienced or that we've been taught. So it's yeah.
That I just had Devin Craig on from Train or Die, and that was his idea too. Is like, you know, exactly what you said. It doesn't matter how many trucks, how many people, the job has to get done. So we teach you with what you have, you know.
Yeah.
And we had talked about when I came on a million years ago, 28 years ago, there was no internet, there was no YouTube, none of that stuff. So everything you learned was in magazines and at the few conferences there were. And those were always, you know, New York City people and LA people. So every tactic you learned wasn't really scaled for you and your department. But now with so many micro conferences and people like you all going around the country teaching, spreading the poison, like you said, you know, you guys teach based on where you're at and how they do things. You know, I think that's great. I think that's really, I always say we're in a firefighter renaissance right now. I think that with the internet and with so many people traveling around like you all, that the word's getting out and you're given the right information as well. So I think that's great.
Thank you. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about Leatherhead Tools. This sounds like, now to me, this sounds like the dream gig.
Oh man. All right. I had to make sure I asked the VP, I called him to get clearance to tell the story, right?
Okay.
So, God bless my wife, love her to death. She has put up with me traveling and being I call them, around here they're called Farkles, like fans, buffs, and things like that. And she's allowed me to kind of go and spend time away from the family, to go really keep pursuing my dream and things like that. And so there's a tool sales company that's up in the area that just kind of got bought out. It was 5 Alarm Fire and Safety,
Yeah.
and a company called McQueen just bought them out. But at the time, I put on a local class here in the area, and the owner, I didn't know he owned this company, came to me and said, "How would you like to do forced entry out of our location?" He's like, "I'll buy you whatever you need. You can just host classes here. It's literally 6 minutes down the road from my house." And the wife's like, "Oh, absolutely, yeah. Stops. I can get home every night. Yeah, hell yeah, absolutely." And I kind of hemmed and hawed about it, because it really, if I wanted to do it, I wanted to do it right. I wanted to bring in the guys that have trained me, or that I've rolled with, and that we all know how we work with each other. I just wasn't quite ready to give up, traveling as much. So eventually I caved. And as I put the list together for the owner, his name was Jerry. He's like, "It says it's all fire hooks and limited tools on here." I said, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, I sell Leatherhead Tools." I was like, "I don't want that shit." He's like, "What do you mean you don't want that shit?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't want these tools." I said, "I would like fire hooks and limited tools. They're true. They're tried and tested from how many years? Everyone's using them. It's the Halligan bar is the iconic, is the Pro bar, right?" And he's like, "All right, fair enough. I'll get you what you need to make sure it's on." I said, "Yeah, it's just the message that from the time I started with Brother Instructors, I kept that message going from what I learned, and that's the tools that we used, and that's great." I made sure that there's other ones out there to show that there's other tools that people can utilize and the differences, and people can try what they want, because I have a lot of Halligan bars in my house that I like to try and check out. Way too many tools.
Do you have an actual Hugh Halligan bar?
I do. I had two, and I actually gave one to Torres.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. Like I said, he's a close friend, and he's like, "All right, man, I'm gonna do you a solid here. You've helped me out with a lot of things in my life and career. Least I can do." But yeah, so I have one. Got that thing on the homeowner's insurance. So yeah, so then like a couple weeks go by and he's like, "Oh, what are you doing this date?" And I said, "Nothing. Why?" He's like, "Well, good, because you got a meeting with Leatherhead Tools, the vice president and the E board and all that stuff on telling them why their tools suck." And I was like, "Oh, yeah." So I met a guy who from RC Bremer. His name was Joe Falk. I met him at a parking ride in Elkhorn, Wisconsin. We drove down there together in Rockford. And then I'm like looking at this like Dungeness factory that's, you know, Dasco Pro. Like the joke was that's the chisel that Jesus Christ used back in the day. So I'm like, holy shit, like look at this old town in Rockford. Like this, it's like bombed out and depleted. And I'm like, they make Leatherhead tools in this building. So you walk in and it's pretty cool. Like there's a lot of old history, a lot of old tools. It's almost like a firehouse feel, like just old history. And you go up the stairs, make a right, and there's the conference room. The conference room is not a conference room. It's an old like school cafeteria table and some hard ass plastic chairs, right? And this is truly a blue collar facility. It's pretty cool. And shake hands, you know, press the flesh, meet everyone there. And they're like, "What do you got for us?" I said, "Well, let me go out to the car and bring all my stuff in." I brought in the Hugh Halligan bar. I brought in my Pro bar that was tuned. I brought in at the time the Azel bar, the 3-inch wide Azel bar, the monster bar. I brought in that 3-piece boat anchor, you know, that the pin Halligan bar. I brought that in.
Yes.
I brought in all the axes and I explained to them, and then I brought in hooks as well.
Now, were
So,
you nervous? Were you kind of like, "Oh shit, what did I step in?" Or were you kind of excited to do this?
there wasn't enough deodorant to stop the sweat going on in me, man. It was happening. But yeah, so I sat down and I just explained. I said, "Hey, this is what I've learned from a lot of people, and this is what I've seen, and this is what's worked out in the field for me personally, right? Everyone has a different opinion, different usage. There's people way more experienced than I am, way more out there, right? That they should be tapping into." And I was just sitting there like, why is it me that's sitting in front of these people telling them what they should do to modify their tools? We started with the Halligan bar, and I said, "You know, you guys have this really aggressive curve on that ads end." I said, where did that come from? You know, they wanted to leverage and things like that. And I said, well, sometimes that can kind of screw you. And here's applications of why. I said, like you come into like cellar doors, a dead end hallway, you have an area where you don't have that swing space on both sides of the doors. I said, how are you going to set the tip of the ads in that door to get a gap when you're fighting that curve to get that right angle? They're like, oh, all right. And just a couple of other things, you know, we talked about squaring off the shoulders and people tuning the forks out of the gates and making sure like the weight of the Halligan bar. We talked about even like the Pro bar has 8 sides of the shaft, right? Where Leatherheads has 6. And I said, people don't like that because sometimes when you're sliding the shaft to hit the square off shoulders on the forks to drive them in, now you're on a ridge, right? Fun fact, to change the shaft was like $300,000. So who am I to tell? Yeah, right. The big eye opener when I started talking to these guys and helping them with the tools. So who am I to tell these guys that, yeah, let's go ahead and invest $300,000 and just to change this groove? I'm like, oh, I'll
Because
grind
Tai
it down.
says so.
Yeah, I'll grind it down. That's cool. I'll grind it down. But yeah, so that happened. And then from there, it created, so Rick Parker is the VP, and it created a friendship and a bond. And somehow he had put trust and faith into me, that things I was telling him to help kind of to change, you know, Leatherhead tools. And I said, if you start changing some of these things on your Halligan bars, and it's not just me saying this, I'm speaking from majority from what I hear out from people everywhere, right, on social media at these trainings, you'll probably increase your sales. I said, there's nothing wrong with your bar for the most part. Like you don't have a 3-piece. It's still 100% made in the USA, which is huge. Like there's a lot of good features. I said, but you can fine tune it. And ever since they did that, the sales for them kind of skyrocketed. And they didn't change the price and they didn't do anything else. I said, you just modified it to meet the modern fire needs of what it should have been. The axes, the flathead axe, there was no buffer space on the striking side for your knuckles like fire hooks had. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, what's the design of this? Like, what was the reasoning behind it? And it was there's no reasoning. It's just how it was. And I said, no, let me explain something to you. And I started having them put the tools in their hands and going through the motions. And I said, you smack your knuckles on this, like you're done for. I said, this is a good technique. This is a balanced tool. We got to fix these things. And so they did, you know, and then we kind of let that marinate over time. And then we started looking at what's the next thing. So we'd have meetings. And that's when I kind of started bringing in some of the other guys. Like I asked Mike to kind of help out as well. There's another guy named Dave that I used to work with in Greenfield. I kind of brought him from a different aspect. You know, you have big city and you have small department that looks at what the needs are and the fits. Arthur helped out for a little bit. Yeah, and just kind of and going through there. Andrew Bassard, he's a guy that that kind of mentored me as well. I know he's like a big name in the 4th century world. I was constantly picking his brain on this stuff, and I sent him samples. He was one of the first guys I thought about. Like, hey, if anyone's gonna break this tool, it's gonna be brass. I brought prototypes down at Jim's place for him to kind of destroy. You know, fun fact, at Live Fire Camp at the 4th century station, you and your partner, I think, in like 2 hours, you go through like 72 doors.
What?
So yeah, legit. And there's, I don't know, there's 16 guys there. How many of it is there? There's 4 doors down and 4 doors back, and you just go, right, for that time frame. So if those tools are gonna withstand 2 hours of just consistent beating, we're gonna know what's wrong with them and what we have to adjust, right? So yeah, so they kind of brought me on, and we just been slowly tweaking things here and there. You know, the axe handle. We got Scott Sullivan that puts wooden handles in tools all the time. He's actually here in Milwaukee. He used to be a fireman. We reached out to him, and I brought him down with me and said, hey, tell him my other handles suck ass. So it's the same thing, man. I told him how their bars sucked ass. And they do the same thing, Scott. Just don't be afraid. Take the filter off and let it fly. And they want to know, because it's ultimately going to help them out.
Right.
You know, but the cool thing that I learned about Leatherhead Tools, and again, I'm not on payroll. I'm not an owner. I'm not anything like that. I'm just a consultant for them. I just kind of tell them and help kind of mitigate problems that I see on social media. Like if someone has a broken tool, I'll reach out to them and say, hey, Rick, this guy's tool broke. Like, let's engage that Leatherhead warranty. Let's get the name. We'll send them a new one replacement. No questions asked, right? For the most part. But the cool thing was to see behind the scenes a true forge, like seeing a Halligan bar forged. Like he showed me the little piece of metal that started off like the size of a pen, right? And then it just hammers and hammers and elongates into this Halligan bar, this 30-inch bar. And I'm like, holy shit, man. This is so cool to see the behind the scenes thing and the workers there. You know, even more so, a cool thing that Leatherhead did, which really struck home for me and kind of set in stone why this is a quality company, is they hired a lot of special needs people in the packaging area to give them jobs and something to do.
That's
And
great.
I was like, you got to be kidding me. I'm like, that's phenomenal. And all these guys were happy. Like I got to shake their hands, meet them. And I said, is that something that you guys have always done? They said, yeah, it's just giving back to the community and helping out with jobs, right? And making sure that jobs stay here in the US per se, and that the tools are still made 100% American made. And it's just cool. So it's been very awesome, very eye-opening as I talked about the cost of changing the shaft, right? Tool manufacturing. But don't kid yourself. You know, I still love Firehooks Unlimited Tools. I still have plenty of his stuff here, Bob's stuff in my house.
Yeah.
I still use it on the rig. I still use Leatherhead stuff. At the end of the day, we're just trying to make sure that there's good quality tools getting put out there. And it's kind of nice that I get to do it behind the scenes for the most part. You know, I'm not looking for any recognition. I just is some Halligan dork that has a bunch of them that was given the opportunity to explain my love of it and what was wrong with their shit.
Now, is that just a stepping stone because you ultimately want to work for Paratech and not change anything on their bars?
I'm good. I'm good where I'm at. Don't you do that to me. Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good with where I'm at. You know, maybe down the road I'll be running Leatherhead Tools. Who knows? Who knows?
There you go. That now, I know your changes, not only because you just said your Halligan bar changes, that they listened to him and made those changes. I saw a video of you and Arthur actually on YouTube forcing a door, and it showed that you had the squared shoulders and you had the notches on the fork, and you actually talked about the flatter ads and all that stuff. So that's pretty cool. It must be really neat to talk to such a big company that makes fire stuff, and then you actually bring that realism to them, and you know that the company's listening because I mean they make the changes. That's pretty badass.
Yeah, I'm still humbled, still tickled. You know, it's the only thing I ever asked for, and I'm happy to be a part of it. Is every year I get to go to FJC and sit in the booth with Mike and the guys and whoever. You know, like we've narrowed it down obviously because the show got a little bit smaller past year and things like that, and it's so expensive to have a booth down there. But
yeah.
It's just that's the thing I care about is I just like to have a chance to get down to FTIC so I can see the other vendors, see all my friends at night, have a beer with them, but also help kind of represent and explain some of the changes that we did. So it really it's from a firefighter's mouth per se, and not a company standpoint. So it's cool. And then
I will be up there with my podcast as well. So maybe swing by the booth. I'll be over by fire facilities booth. They have a booth just for me as well. So could stop on by. Cool. So let me ask you this. So you're fairly new in Milwaukee, right?
Yes, sir.
Has it been received that you teach on a national level, you help with tool design and development or whatever, and you go to FDTN? I mean, you do a lot of stuff that some people go their whole careers and don't achieve these levels of notoriety. Are you treated any different? Or is everybody kind of cool with it? You got some haters? You got haters, don't you? You got haters. You got to have haters.
There's always haters everywhere, man. But it's not like that at all. That's a blanket statement, right?
Right.
Actually, Jim McCormick told me best. He's like, for every one guy that likes you, Ty, there's 12 that hate you, right? And it can be more true.
Yeah.
But no, I really haven't. When I hit the reset button, and truthfully, Milwaukee was my dream job. I tested twice to try to get there, and lo and behold, it just happened later on in my career, in my life. That door opened up for me, and it was a long conversation with my wife to make sure that it without me being selfish, that's my dream job, but I have somebody else to worry about as well. And it worked out. I'm 100% happy. And at the end of the day, like, I never really talked about, like, people knew, people would come up and be like, you're that guy from Greenfield. You're the guy that goes around teaching this or that. I'm like, I don't know who that guy is. You got the wrong Tai Rondeau. And, you just got to fly under the radar. And I don't really, the first house captain I had, Captain Starr, I was very fortunate. I think he kind of used that to his advantage. I brought in my door prop. How many rookies get a chance to bring in like their door prop? You kind of keep your mouth shut, stay quiet.
Mhm.
And it worked out awesome, right? So like he kind of used that to the advantage of the whole entire firehouse, and we just kind of kept it there. By all means, I never went around bragging about this or that, or I did this, that. Like those aren't the guys you want to surround yourself around, right?
Right.
Just truthfully just trying to stay humble. And I'm still, like, as we talk, you're bringing up all these things that I've had opportunities to do, and I really don't think about that. It just kind of blows my mind. But I think for the most part, I think it's been really good. And truthfully, because it's a new job, and I'm learning a new culture, and I'm learning, stuff that I've never done in my life. And I'm still learning a ton, right? I'm considered very young, very new there. I'm focusing a lot on that right now, and I'm kind of shelving the traveling and teaching for the most part. There's a couple of gigs this year I got asked to be a part of. But really my focus right now is learn to be a good Milwaukee fireman and make sure I'm there for my house and my company. And like I said, I'm going to go back, and as soon as Aaron comes back in the area, I'm going back through Nozzle Ford again. I'm going to try to bring more people out of my firehouse.
That's great.
I want to do the grunt work.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, once you take Nozzle Forward, you can come and take the class over and over and over again for free.
Yeah.
That is a testament to the people that go back and go over and over and over, but also to Aaron Fields and how he cares about the fire service and teaching, that he's like, it's not about the money. It's about you come and get the sets and reps in. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah. You got to put in the work. He said, work is the shortcut, right?
Work is the shortcut. Exactly. Absolutely. Yeah. They said, I forget who I talked to after you left. They said that was your 6th or 7th time.
Oh, that's false.
It's not?
I think it was my second or third, I believe.
Oh, yeah. They told me like 6 or 7. So I thought you were trying to get into, or at least were you thinking about becoming a cadre member there?
No.
Really?
I don't think I got what it takes to do that there. I'm just happy to take the class, and deep down I nerd out. Like I got nozzles in my basement. I got flow meters. I've got I nerd out to the engine stuff right now. I'm in an engine company, so I got to know my craft to the best. And I can thank Andy Plofkin for that. he's got me drinking the Kool-Aid on the 15th, 16th and everything else. But
oh yeah. We just bought a whole bunch of nozzles and stuff from him.
Yeah. But yeah, I just enjoy flowing water and putting in the work. And if I ever did get a chance to teach them, great, that's cool. That'd be phenomenal, because that's just more people that are like-minded I get to surround myself around. But at some point you stretch yourself too thin, though. You got to find a balance, right?
Yeah. Well, and I know Torres was going around like constantly for a long time, and he's had to gator down a bit just for that reason. He was kind of trying to spread the poison a little much, I guess.
Yeah. And it's almost like, as I sat down, and when the COVID hit, for those, 2 years, and him and I would talk, like, isn't it so weird that we're not running around teaching this class here, helping out with this class there, doing this, And realistically, my role in a lot of it was logistics. I'm like, I'm like the Asian logistical guy with numbers and math, right? Um, but and that's where I kind of came into play. Like those guys have the talent and the skill set. I was just there to make sure everything stayed on track and everything was good. But it was weird. It was nice to have a little bit of break during that time frame. Yeah, I don't know.
That's great. Well, brother, I tell you what, you've inspired me when I first met you. I'm inspired again listening to you. If I get a chance to come back as a new firefighter, I think I'm going to call you and say, okay, how do I start again? How do I get that aggressive and that passionate that early?
I'm still learning, man. So I'll share what notes I wrote down so far, but it's absolutely, man. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm still humbled. I don't know why I got picked to be on this. I'm just a little guy out here in the world.
Brother, I appreciate you. You've inspired me, and I know you've inspired others. That's why you were picked. And everybody I've had on here, they say the same thing. They say, I got a hold of Basil Ibrahim, and first thing he said to me was, "Who am I? Why do you want to talk to me?" It's just it's great. It's I call you landscapers. People like you, landscapers, because you're changing the landscape of the fire service. So
I hope to think like it's almost like taking your kid to college, right? Like like Mikey, myself, like you, a bunch of guys are out there, creating this culture, and eventually you got to send the kid off to college, and the next wave of guys come through, So hey, you know what? If my wave has been ridden, I was a hell of a wave, and I love it, man. I'm in a good spot now, anyways. I'm happy just sitting at work and doing grunt work. It's awesome, but yeah. So,
brother, thanks again for being on my show. It was great meeting you again.
You too. Thanks, buddy.
All right, buddy. Today's podcast was sponsored by Fire Facilities, designers and manufacturers of realistic, built-to-last training structures and mobile units for 30 years. Make training count. Visit firefacilities.com for more information.